The morning the agricultural inspector stood in Vera Donnelly's orchard, counting blossoms on trees that shouldn't have had any, the county co-op was 3 miles away holding an emergency meeting about the pollination crisis. By noon, everyone knew two things. Commercial operations had lost 90% of their apple crop, and Vera's pest problem had somehow saved hers. 8 months before, Vera had driven to a bankruptcy auction in the next county, where a fourth-generation beekeeper named Arnold Stein was selling everything. His son had moved to Denver. His wife had died. The bees were listed last, almost an afterthought. 12 established hives, Italian strain, for $100 lot. Vera raised her card before the auctioneer finished the description. 400 to number 17, he called. Do I hear 450? Silence. Then Frank Kowalski's voice from the back. What's she gonna do, start a honey empire? Laughter rippled through the crowd. Vera kept her eyes forward, card still raised. Going once. Those things you'll swarm all over creation, someone else said. Probably sting every kid in the county. The auctioneer looked uncomfortable. Sold to 17. She loaded the hives onto her flatbed with Arnold's help, the old man's hands shaking as he secured the straps. They're good bees, he said. Gentle. Productive. I've had the queen lines for 20 years. I'll take care of them. People don't understand bees anymore. Think they're just insects. But they're... He stopped, grief catching in his throat. They're partners. You'll see. Vera drove the 15 miles home to Donnelly Orchards at sunset, the hives humming softly in the truck bed. Her son Marcus met her at the barn, jaw tight. Mom, we needed that money for the spray schedule. We've got enough. For what? You bought bees. We grow apples. Those are two different things. They're connected. How? She looked at him, 32 years old, college degree in agricultural business, full of the same certainty his father had carried before the cancer took him. You'll see. Marcus slept at his apartment in town that night, instead of the farmhouse. Her daughter-in-law Sarah called the next morning, voice careful. Vera, Marcus said you made a big purchase yesterday. The Stein hives. Honey, I know you miss Robert, but you can't just... People are worried about you. Vera was checking the orchard fence line, phone wedged against her shoulder. The morning light caught the dew on the grass, turned everything silver. I'm fine, Sarah. Arnold Stein's bees attacked a dog last year. Everyone knows that. The dog charged the hives. The bees defended themselves. Still, it's dangerous. What if the grandkids will learn to respect bees, like they respect the tractor and the irrigation system and everything else that works on a farm? After Sarah hung up, Vera positioned the hives along the eastern edge of her 30-acre orchard, 12 white boxes arranged with careful spacing, facing southeast to catch the morning sun. The bees oriented themselves immediately, streaming out in reconnaissance flights, mapping their new territory. At the co-op the following week, Frank Kowalski held court by the spray chemicals. Anyone else think Vera's lost it? Bees, for God's sake. Right next to the orchard. They'll interfere with the spray schedule, Marcus said quietly. He was there, Vera knew, because he'd stopped consulting her before making chemical orders. Mom doesn't understand the timing anymore. Your dad understood modern agriculture, Frank said. No offense, but Vera's old school. My grandfather kept bees. Lost money every year. Vera was 2 miles over, checking prices on grafting supplies. She didn't interrupt. Her mother had taught her that lesson 30 years ago, when the county extension agent told her women didn't have the upper body strength for orchard work. Don't argue. Just proceed. She proceeded. The bees worked her trees through September, October, into the late fall bloom of her experimental cold-hardy varieties. They brought in pollen, cross-pollinated, stored honey. Vera watched them, learning their patterns, understanding what Arnold had meant. They weren't workers. They were collaborators. Marcus came for Sunday dinner in November, made careful conversation about neutral topics, left early. Sarah sent apologetic texts. He just needs time. The County Horticultural Society meeting in December turned awkward when Vera entered. Conversation stopped, restarted. Linda Chun, who managed a 100-acre commercial operation, gave her a pitying smile. How are you managing, Vera? We heard about your insect project. Fine. The bees are wintering well. Must be expensive, maintaining hives. On top of regular operations. It's manageable. If you ever need advice, modern approaches, I'd be happy to share some resources. Vera thanked her and left early. In the parking lot, she heard Frank through an open window. Someone should check on her. This is how it starts. The odd decisions, the isolation. My aunt went the same way before we moved her to assisted living. She drove home through the November dark, the orchard bare-branched against the stars. The hives sat quiet, the bees clustered inside, keeping the queen warm, waiting for spring. They thought she was confused, brief-addled, stuck in outdated methods. Let them think it. Spring would come, the trees would bloom, and Vera would still be there, proceeding forward with the steady confidence of someone who understood what the land needed, even when no one else did. The first sign of trouble came in late February, when the county extension office sent an alert about unusually low wild pollinator counts. By March, commercial beekeepers were reporting losses, 30%, 50%, entire operations gone. A parasitic mite, the bulletin said, combined with pesticide exposure and habitat loss, the regional honeybee population had crashed. Vera checked her hives daily. Arnold's bees were thriving, strong, active, already taking orientation flights on warm afternoons. She'd kept them chemical-free, fed them through the winter with their own honey stores instead of sugar water, positioned them where they had access to diverse forage. Marcus called in early April. "Mom, we need to talk about the spray schedule. I'm not spraying. The whole county's spraying. Fire blight's been bad. We'll lose trees. My trees are healthy. For now, but everyone else is treating, and if we don't, Marcus, the bees can't survive the chemicals. You know that." Long silence. "Mom, the bees aren't the business. The apples are. The bees are the only way we get apples. We'll rent commercial hives. That's what everyone does. There aren't any commercial hives. Haven't you been reading the bulletins?" She heard him breathing, processing. "That's temporary. They'll recover. Maybe. But mine are here now, and they're healthy, and I'm not killing them to follow a spray schedule that's been destroying soil biology for 20 years. He hung up. Sarah texted an hour later. "He's just scared. The orchard is his inheritance." Vera didn't respond. She walked the trees instead, 247 of them, planted over 30 years, varieties she and Robert had chosen together. Honeycrisp, Cortland, Arkansas Black. The heirloom strains that didn't ship well, but tasted like childhood. She ran her calloused hands over the bark, checking for disease, finding none. The bloom came late that year, mid-May instead of early May. Vera's trees exploded in white and pink, fragrant, heavy with blossoms. She stood in the center of the orchard at dawn, watching her bees work, thousands of them, moving tree to tree, branch to branch, pollen-drunk and purposeful. 3 miles away, Frank Kowalski's commercial operation stood silent. She heard it through Linda Chun, who stopped by unannounced one morning. "Vera, I need to ask you something." Linda looked exhausted, older. "Did you rent pollinators?" "No. I have my own." "The Stein hives?" "Yes." Linda stared at the bees working the trees. "We can't get rental hives. Nobody can. The brokers are out. We've got full bloom and nothing to pollinate." Vera poured coffee, gestured to the porch chairs. Linda sat like her bones hurt. "I've got $250,000 invested in this year's crop," Linda said. "The trees are blooming, and I'm watching them die unfertilized. Frank's in the same position. So is everyone else. What about wild pollinators? There aren't enough. The mite killed everything. The sprays killed the habitat. She stopped, pulled herself together. "We're in trouble." Vera watched her bees. Arnold's careful breeding, 20 years of sustainable practices, condensed into 12 boxes of humming collaboration. She knew what Linda was going to ask. "Can I rent some of your hives?" Linda's voice was small. "Just for 2 weeks. I'd pay triple the normal rate." "They're not for rent." "Vera, please. I'll lose everything. I can't split the hives mid-season. It'll weaken them. They're working my trees. Your 30 acres versus my 100. My 30 acres that everyone said I was crazy for managing this way." Linda's face went red. "That's not fair." "Fair." Vera set down her coffee. "You stood in the co-op last year and laughed when Frank called me senile. You offered me pamphlets on modern agriculture like I was a child who couldn't read. I was trying to help. You were trying to fix something that wasn't broken." Vera stood. "I'm sorry about your crop. I am. But I can't save everyone who dismissed me right up until they needed saving." Linda left without another word. By evening, Vera had 3 more calls. Frank Kowalski, The Brennan brothers, a corporate operation from 2 counties over. All asking for bees. All refused. Marcus showed up at sunset, angry. You're being vindictive. I'm being practical. You could help people. I could destroy my hives trying to do the impossible. So everyone else suffers because you want to prove a point? Vera faced her son across the porch railing. Everyone else suffers because they built a system that depended on things they didn't respect or understand. I didn't create this crisis, Marcus. I just didn't participate in it. That's cold, Mom. That's farming. He left. Sarah didn't text. Through late May, Vera worked alone. The bees pollinated every blossom, moved with the efficiency of a system that had evolved for millennia. By early June, the fruit set was visible, small green apples clustering thick on every branch. The rest of the county's trees stood bare. The agricultural inspector arrived in mid-June without warning, clipboard in hand, county vehicle in the driveway. Vera was thinning fruit, removing the smallest apples so the remaining ones would grow large when he approached. Ms. Donnelly? I'm Clay Morrison, Regional AG office. Got a minute? She climbed down from the ladder. Sure. He walked the rows slowly, counting, photographing, making notes. His face showed nothing. Finally, you're showing 95% fruit set. Closer to 97, by my count. The regional average this year is 8%. I heard. He looked at the hives, buzzing peacefully in the morning sun. The Stein bees. Yes. Can I ask why you didn't participate in the commercial pollination network? I kept my own pollinators instead. That's not common practice anymore. I know. Morrison made more notes. Ms. Donnelly, I'm documenting successful agricultural adaptations in response to this year's pollination crisis. Would you be willing to participate in a case study? What's it involve? Interviews. Field data. We'd like to understand how your operation maintained productivity while others failed. Vera studied him. Will you put in the report that everyone called me crazy? He almost smiled. If you want that included, yes. Then okay. The article ran in July, small at first, just the state agricultural bulletin. But it got picked up, shared, forwarded. By August, Vera had reporters in her driveway and desperate farmers calling it dinner time. The harvest came in September, 13,000 bushels of premium organic apples. Vera hired a crew from the high school, paid them well, taught them to handle fruit with respect. Marcus showed up on the 3rd day, no explanation, just started working. They picked side by side in silence until noon. Finally, he said, I'm sorry. Vera kept picking. I know. I thought you were stuck in the past. Thought Dad's way was the only way. Your father was a good farmer. But he learned from his time. I had to learn from mine. The county's calling you a pioneer. The county called me senile 6 months ago. Marcus laughed, surprising both of them. Fair point. That evening, after the crew left, after Marcus drove back to town with a promise to return tomorrow, Frank Kowalski appeared. Hat in his hands, shoulders bent. Vera, can we talk? She was closing up the equipment shed, the day's heat still radiating from the barn walls. Go ahead. I'm bankrupt. Lost everything. The bank's taking the land in October. She waited. I was wrong about you. About the bees. He swallowed hard. About everything. I was an ass. Yes. I wanted to apologize. Before I leave the county. You deserved better. Vera looked at this man who'd spent 3 years dismissing her, mocking her, treating her like she'd lost her mind along with her husband. She saw the genuine remorse, the complete defeat. What'll you do? She asked. My daughter's in Kansas City. I'll stay with her. Try to find work. You know orchards. Nobody's hiring a 68-year-old bankrupt farmer. Vera pulled out her phone, scrolled, found a number. I'm expanding. Meet someone who knows apple varieties and can manage seasonal crews. Pays decent. You interested? Frank stared. You'd hire me? You know the work. You made mistakes, but you own them. That's worth something. His eyes went wet. I don't deserve. Probably not. But my bees don't care about deserve. They just care about work getting done. Be here Monday, 6 a.m. She hired Linda Chin too. When Linda came by in September, quieter, humbler. Hired the Brennan brothers as consultants when they asked to learn her methods. By October, Donnelly Orchards had become an education center. Farmers from 7 states coming to see the hives, learn the integration, understand how pre-industrial practices could solve industrial-age problems. Marcus moved back to the farmhouse. Sarah brought the grandkids every weekend, taught them to check hive entrances, to move slowly, to respect the bee space. The kids learned. Everyone learned. The state agricultural department featured Vera in their winter conference. She almost refused, but Marcus convinced her. People need to see it's possible. She spoke for 20 minutes, standing at a podium in clothes she'd worn to Robert's funeral 6 years before. Talked about Arnold Stein, about her mother's lessons, about proceeding forward when everyone said you were going backward. The bees didn't save my orchard, she said. Partnership saved it. Understanding that farming isn't about dominating systems. It's about participating in them. Standing ovation. She left immediately after, uncomfortable with applause, eager to get home to the real work. Winter came, cold and clean. Vera wrapped the hives, checked their stores, made sure they had what they needed. Marcus handled the business side now. Contracts with organic distributors, workshop scheduling, the expanding consultation requests. One evening in December, Vera stood in the dark orchard, bare branches overhead, frozen ground underfoot. The hives hummed softly, the bees clustered inside, keeping warm, waiting for spring. She thought about Robert, who'd farmed conventionally because that's what everyone did, but who'd trusted her enough to let her try something different. She thought about Arnold Stein shaking hands, securing those hives for transport. She thought about all the farmers learning to listen again, to land, to insects, to the old knowledge that had never stopped being true. The vindication wasn't in the articles or the conference invitations. It was in the soil, richer each year. In the bees, thriving. In the trees that would bloom heavy next spring. In the fruit that would feed families. In the system that worked because she'd refused to give up on it. Vera Donnelly walked back to the farmhouse, her calloused hands swinging at her sides, her breath misting in the winter air. Tomorrow she'd teach another workshop. Next week, 3 more farmers were converting to integrated pollination systems. The work continued. The bees waited for spring. And Vera, as always, proceeded forward, steady, certain, devastatingly right in the way that only time and harvest could prove.